Here's the brief news from the world over this week. On Capitol Hill, Republicans are still trying to repeal and replace Obamacare, and the process is moving along slowly. After narrowly finding the votes to merely debate health care legislation, Senate Republicans began the process of finding some measure, any measure, to coalesce around. They're now working on what they call a skinny repeal, retiring the individual mandate to buy insurance and taxes on medical devices. It is hoped that they could pull off a more ambitious repeal during negotiations between the House and the Senate. A straightforward repeal and a new health care bill championed by Majority Leader Mitch McConnell went down in flames early on. President Donald Trump has barred transgendered individuals from serving in the military in any capacity. The president announced the policy in a tweet on Wednesday. He said he made his decision after consultation with generals and military experts. The move reverses President Barack Obama's decision last year that allows transgendered people to serve openly in the military and oblige the Pentagon to pay for medical treatment related to gender transition. There are as many as 250 service members in the process of medically transitioning, according to the Pentagon. President Trump did not say what would happen to transgendered personnel already in the ranks of the military. Meanwhile, the arrest this week of Capitol Hill aide to Democrats as he attempted to flee the U.S. is calling attention to what might be a massive cybersecurity breach. The aide, an IT specialist, Imran Awan, his wife, and other family members had worked for more than a dozen Democratic lawmakers, including former Democratic National Committee head, Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Awan was nabbed by the FBI at Dulles Airport before boarding a flight to his native Pakistan. His wife is already there. Awan allegedly stole hundreds of thousands of dollars in equipment from House offices and funneled sensitive congressional data off-site. According to reports, he had been under FBI investigation for months, and the Bureau had seized smashed hard drives from Awan's home. As allegations against Awan began to surface, some Democrats fired him, but Wasserman Schultz kept him on staff until this week. Under her watch, the DNC suffered a major data security breach during last year's election. President Trump rued the lack of news coverage of the Awan story in a tweet. Awan's attorney says the arrest at Dulles Airport was over a bank fraud allegation and demonstrates anti-Muslim bigotry. And the legal battle over the life of 11-month-old Charlie Gard has come to an end. His parents, Connie Yates and Chris Gard, announced Monday that they had dropped their legal effort to seek experimental treatment for their critically ill baby. Tearfully, they said it was now too late to give Charlie a meaningful chance after his doctors, the National Health Service-backed hospital, and several courts refused the parents' efforts to seek potentially life-saving treatment for the boy.
This is about a sweet, gorgeous, innocent little boy who was born with a rare disease, who had a real, genuine chance at life, and a family who love him so very dearly, and that's why we fought so hard for him. And we will let our son go and be with the angels.
Charlie suffers from an extremely rare genetic condition causing progressive brain damage and muscle weakness. A ventilation tube kept him alive. The boy's doctors and administrators at London's Great Ormond Street Hospital opposed the parents' attempts to secure care for their child. Courts repeatedly backed the hospital. A judge has ordered that Charlie be sent to a hospice and not home to die, which was the desire of his parents. What a sad, sad story. And a federal judge this week blocked the deportation of 114 Iraqi immigrants for at least 2 more weeks. The decision was hailed by the American Civil Liberties Union and others because they say the immigrants, many of whom are Chaldean Christians, would face persecution or death by returning to Iraq. The 114 Iraqis were detained by Immigration and Customs Enforcement last month because many of them had a criminal history. A lawsuit was immediately filed against ICE to prevent the deportations. The stay was granted to allow the court time to determine if it has jurisdiction and whether the deportations will eventually go forward. A Vatican official addressing a UN meeting on migration is emphasizing, quote, the right to remain in one's homeland in dignity, peace, and security. Father Michael Scherzny, an undersecretary of the Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development, said this week that no one should ever be forced to leave his or her home due to lack of development or peace. Because of this right, he said, international efforts should focus on its obligation to ensure the sustainable and integral human development of all people in their place of origin. He noted that this is a prior obligation to that of receiving, assisting, or integrating immigrants. More on the plight of refugees in the Middle East and elsewhere later in the program. And Cardinal George Pell appeared in court in Melbourne, Australia this week for the first hearing on charges of sex abuse. The Cardinal's lawyer announced that Pell, a Vatican official, will plead not guilty to all charges made against him. The hearing was only a brief administrative session. The court will not reconvene until October, when it decides if there is sufficient evidence against the Cardinal to warrant a full trial. Pell was not required to appear and did not issue any statements. The actual charges against him have not yet been made public, but are expected to be issued in September. A note, Pell faced similar charges in 2004. His accusers were thrown out of court. The current accusers are ex-cons. And the recently fired doctrinal head for the Catholic Church appears to be the Church's new voice for orthodoxy. In a recent interview, Cardinal Gerhard Muller questioned Pope Francis's unwillingness to clarify his teaching on communion for divorced and remarried Catholics, saying he did not understand why the Pope has not met to dialogue with cardinals of the famous dubia, asking for clarity on the papal document Amoris Laetitia. Appointed by Pope Benedict, Mueller was dismissed from his post as prefect for the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith last month. As he told me in May, Cardinal Mueller repeated in this interview that the Church's magisterium, quote, does not have the authority to correct Jesus Christ, end quote. An apparent direct reference to those bishops seeking to allow divorced and remarried Catholics to receive Holy Communion.